all simultaneous to this, and so sometimes there's mix-ups there. Hey, I'm Misha Fayon. I just want to start off with I'm just a woman who got super sick and I worked in medical offices and I had family members who worked for big pharma and all this stuff is happening. I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker as I age. I blamed part of it just on age, but I was terrified for my health. So I found a way, just stumbled on a way that helped my health. And that spurned this journey of understanding insulin resistance. Because in the end, two real food products helped my health when nothing else did, when the doctors and 13 different medications and all of that were not helping my health. This did. So I'm not claiming to be a doctor, I'm not claiming to be a nutritionist, any of that. I'm just a person like you guys who was struggling, who was being gaslit by doctors, who was being given up on by the medical community. I actually had one doctor call me into her office and tell me I had the worst metabolic type that she had ever seen. We ran multiple tests, and she told me just flat out, almost had tears in her eyes, that there was nothing she could do for me. So when I started figuring out what was really going on and how I overcame most of the things above by just addressing this thing called insulin resistance, I got really curious as to why all of those things were linked. That's how my brain works. So now I'm here to share it with you. So today I have the wrong picture up. Let's see if I can find the right picture, because what we should have up is a picture about your gut. And that's not what's up there. So we're going to do this again. Okay. Let's try this one more time, because what we're going to talk about today is your gut and how it's linked to insulin resistance, um, and why you might be getting sick. Ooh, everything is just defunct today. What's going on? And it's really important, and it's actually simpler than we might think. It's easier. This one is a little easier than a lot of the things I talk about. By the way, if you want to go back and catch any of the other things I've talked about, your heart, PCOS, your skin, they're housed on Facebook and YouTube more permanently than they can be here on TikTok. So let's dive into this whole thing. I'm gonna go backwards again today because I really want you to understand what's happening, and then we're going to talk about what insulin resistance is and why it's causing it. But one of the very first things we have to talk about is visceral fat, because that's key in why all of this dysfunction with your liver, your kidneys, your colon, your stomach, acid reflux, IBS, gas, bloating, constipation, all of that links into visceral fat. And the interesting thing is, if you don't know, which is fine because most people don't, we have two types of adipose or fat tissue in our bodies. One is subcutaneous. That's the fat that's jiggly and can be lumpy and bumpy, that shows up all over your body, your arms, your legs, your butt, and it can show up around your belly too. But visceral fat is the fat that's stored primarily underneath the muscle wall in your gut. There's some visceral fat that's stored in your neck and in your tongue. We talk about that when we talk about sleep apnea. But visceral fat is brown and subcutaneous fat is white. Why is there a difference? Visceral fat has a lot of mitochondria in it that's using energy and creating warmth. And that's why it's under the muscle wall of the gut, because it's there meant to cushion, warm, and protect our organs. Sounds great, right? So what's the problem? Well, just like insulin, when we have too much insulin and it causes this thing called insulin resistance, where the cells are shutting down to the cues of the hormone insulin, when we have too much visceral fat, it starts to become really destructive in our bodies. So as that visceral fat builds and grows, it starts to literally choke off those organs inside. And you think about there being, so one of the top questions yesterday was of acid reflux. So what's happening with acid reflux is simply that part of it. There's two main cues here. The first part is going to be that we have too much visceral fat and the stomach is just crowded. So now the space that the stomach should have to do its job and fill up, and the stomach is full of really harsh acids. That's where we're having this acid reflux from. It's crowding the stomach. And so the acid has no place to go and it ends up pushing up through your esophageal sphincter, which opens and closes and helps protect you from those acids in the gut. But now there's just not enough room. And so those acids are leaking upward because they can't go downward. There's less room. So, is there a reason why the heavier you get, the more you have acid reflux? Absolutely, there is. So, there's some questions, and you guys, welcome in. Thanks for joining. I would love if you guys let me know where you're from as you hop in. I always really like to see that. So, if you have some of the symptoms above, but not all, what I want to tell you is if you have one of them, it could be insulin resistance, especially if it's hypertension. That's the biggest cue for insulin resistance for me. There's 5 I talk about: um, hypertension, PCOS, erectile dysfunction, skin tags, and those dark skin patches. Those are 5 top cues that you're insulin resistant. Now, if you have any one of those, it's most likely that you're insulin resistant. If you have one or two of these, 2 or more of these would lead to believe that you're insulin resistant. 3, 4, and 5 of those, you're most likely insulin resistant and need to address it. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose you, especially not over this. But here's the good news. If and we're going to talk about insulin resistance in a second, but what I want you to know right now is insulin resistance is a dietary disorder. So it's easier to fix than you think, and it doesn't require excess trips to the doctor and all of that stuff. We just need to understand what's going on with our food environment and our diet. Our diet just being the food we get into our system that's causing the problem. And it doesn't need medications to fix it. So you don't have to have all of them. Yeah, and Anna, I had almost all of those as well. I didn't have psoriasis or eczema, but I had almost every other disorder up there, and I felt like my life was failing. I was 56, and I really didn't see me living to be 70. I'll be 60 in 2 weeks, and I feel better than I did 2.5 years ago, better than I did at 45. And it's hard to believe that I'm going to be 60 in just a few weeks. I never imagined the day I would turn 60, but here we are. But I feel better than ever because I got the insulin resistance under control. A huge part of it is the gut. So we're going to go back to that, and I'll try and answer questions as we go along. I'm going to explain what insulin resistance is in a minute. Um, and it'll explain a lot of what you've been suffering with. Anna, especially, yeah, you tell you're crazy. I know. I'm going to pause for a second because you guys, most of us are going into doctors and we have this list, this huge list of all these things that are going wrong, right? And you're going into your doctor and they're looking at you like you're a hypochondriac, like you're making things up, like you're a drama queen, like, you're just lazy. And if you would just do better with your life, if blah, 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 la, 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 la. And they get tired of hearing from you and they toss some pills at you, like, you got to get control of your life. Take these pills. We'll see you in a few months. If you can't get control of it, I can't help you. What if you can understand, we're going to go over this in a minute, that it's all about the environment you've been put in and not necessarily all the things you're doing. Yes, we have some culpability, right? But the environment that we live in now is far different than it was 50 years ago, and that's why there's this prevalence of these disorders and diseases. So we're going to go over all that. Back to the gut. This excess visceral fat. Now, if you imagine, the visceral fat is underneath that muscle wall, so it has less place to go than all of this subcutaneous fat that's all around your body, right? So that subcutaneous fat can grow and grow and grow, but the visceral fat starts to be contracted by your muscle wall of your belly. It's going to poke out. And if you have excess visceral fat, you're going to look like you're pregnant. You're going to have that distension in your gut because there's all of this fat impacted in there. But it's not only affecting your stomach, as in how it can contract and get rid of those acids that it's using to digest your food. It's also going to affect your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, your heart, your lungs. All of it starts to be affected by that impaction of visceral fat. The interesting thing with visceral fat is that the more visceral fat you have, the more insulin resistant you become. Where is all the visceral fat coming from? When you're getting in too much glucose. you're spiking your levels of insulin, and your body starts to become insulin resistant. One of the first organs to become insulin resistant is your liver. When your liver's not functioning properly, it's cueing more production of visceral fat. So now you have this system where the insulin resistance is affecting your liver, creating too much visceral fat. The visceral fat is getting in. By the way, subcutaneous fat cues more insulin resistance as well. But now you have this negative cycle, right? Insulin resistance is causing liver problems, causing visceral fat. Visceral fat is cueing you to be more and more insulin resistant. And now it's worsening and worsening and worsening. And your doctor's telling you you're crazy. Why aren't they addressing it? Why aren't they talking about this? Why aren't they giving you real answers to it? Why are they just saying it's all you? That's really their cue of saying, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, and I can't seem to fix you. So because I can't tell what it is, I'm going to blame you. Okay. So don't think you're crazy. Don't think you're a hypochondriac. Don't think there's anything wrong with you. There are so many of us suffering from this that it's insane. They take out all the good nutrients and put in bad nutrients. You're absolutely correct. So one of the problems is exactly that. Our foods have been stripped of vital nutrients. We're going to talk a lot about one of them because it is so highly impactful to the gut, and that is fiber. So I was reading in the book Fiber Fueled again. Now he's more vegetarian, Will Bolsowitz. I am more carnivore, but I still believe in the efficacy of fiber in your system for a number of reasons. And maybe we'll do a whole video on fiber next week. But the fiber in the food is one of the big things that's been stripped out that's causing us to be sick. So we're also going to be talking about, I'm going to talk about this whole thing of sugar and insulin more in depth tomorrow, and medications and all that. But two of the things that they do for you, two of the main things they do for you for diabetes, which is end stage insulin resistance, is prescribe you drugs. And this links into your gastrointestinal system. And here's how. One way, which is a metformin type way, they're not allowing the sugar to break down. So if the sugar isn't broken down into finer molecules, it can't absorb into your intestines when it gets there and get into your bloodstream, causing a blood sugar spike and causing insulin to go up. Sounds great, right? But those bigger molecules of sugar are actually causing you to have explosive diarrhea, nausea and vomiting, because the body's not absorbing that sugar. You're also ending up with some malnutrition because of it, because you're not absorbing nutrients that you need. So the medications may be getting your blood sugars down, but look at all the other things that are happening because of it. A second medication they may give you is one that has your kidneys passing the broken down sugar out. So you're peeing out more sugar, right? Which sounds good. Okay, you're getting rid of the sugar. It's not staying in, it's not absorbing, it's not spiking, potentially spiking your insulin as high. So your blood sugar numbers are going down, your insulin numbers are going down. It's not because you ate less sugar, it's not because you controlled the sugar that you ate, it's because you're forcing it out your kidneys. Now your kidneys are being overworked and they're more at risk for having problems. And in that area, wonder why you have yeast infections, why you have urinary tract infections, because all of that sugar passing through that area feeds negative microbiome that's causing problems. So are those things, either one of those things, something you really want to do when you could really just address the nutritional deficiencies in our food, including the biggest one, fiber, that will help you with all of this without those medications causing all that diarrhea and infections and all of these other symptoms and malnutrition, right? So let me see, because there's something else being said here. We're going to talk about what we're going to do to fix it in just a little bit. Yeah, metformin, like I just mentioned, part of the reason it's messing your gut up is what I just mentioned. So it's preventing you from breaking down sugar so fine that it can be absorbed, and you're passing it out, you're having a lot of gastrointestinal effect, difficulties because of it, including that diarrhea and vomiting, because your body has these molecules that it just can't absorb and it's got to get rid of them. So if you're having difficulty, that may be what's happening. Um, can insulin resistance cause leaky gut? Yes, it can. So, and insulin resistance can cause IBS. It can be a contributor to Crohn's, acid reflux, leaky gut. And I have a number of people who've had those issues who've gotten much better, including myself. I had explosive IBS, like debilitating IBS, and every time I visit that room in the house, I'm just so thankful that things are more normal now than they have been in 30 years. And all I did was address my insulin resistance. Um, Metformin, we answered that. Okay, so what do we do to fix? We're going to fix that. We're going to talk about that. Bioengineered food is bad for us, but you know what? Almost all of our food now is bioengineered. So I agree with the statement the bioengineered food is bad for us. But what do we do, you guys? What do we do when almost everything we eat, whether it's organic food, whether it's our beef and our chicken and our boxed food and canned food and everything is all changed from what it's supposed to be? What are you going to do? Well, what you need to do is start paying attention to what's been stripped out, causing us to be sick, so we can start to put that back in and start to feel better. Chronic constipation and diabetes, we're going to talk about that. I opened this, so somebody's asking my doctor. I opened this saying, no, I'm not a doctor. I worked in medical. I got really sick. Doctors couldn't help me. We tried all kinds of things. I did medical medium. I did all of these things to get better. Nothing was working. I found one thing that worked. That led me down the path of learning more about insulin resistance. So I am just a normal person like you guys who happened to do a lot of studying on why all of this stuff got better for me when doctors gave up on me. Okay, doctors gave up on me. I figured it out by stumbling on a system we're going to go over in a minute. So, what type of diet do you recommend? So, here's the thing. I'm going to recommend the type of diet that works for you. Not everybody has the same genetics, and there are a lot of books out there about like eating right for your blood type. Giles Yao has this one called Gene Eating. I've got so many books around my house. So Giles Yao wrote this one about gene eating. So now what the basis of this is it talks about our genetic makeup and what we're more predisposed to be able to digest and eat. I've listened to people on both sides of the camp, right? Like I'm reading Fiber Fueled. Will Bolsowitz is vegetarian. I'm not. Ben Dickman, who wrote this book, is more and less vegetarian I eat. But here's the thing. Your genes are going to tell you what you need to eat. If you have genes of someone who over time was a hunter gatherer, you're going to need a combination, right? If you lived in an area where it was primarily fruits and vegetables, you're going to do less well on meat. And I need you guys to pay attention to that. Just because it's good for person B doesn't mean it's good for you. You have to listen to your own body and understand what your body needs. So I can't tell you what to eat. I can give you some basic bones of the nutrients you need to get in, and then you get to decide how your body functions. And understand this. When we talk about genes and genetics, they do not change in 50 years' time. It doesn't change that quick. So when we talk about genetics, and like I'm Native American from the Great Lakes, so we subsisted on a lot of red meat, some cranberries, some things that we could gather in times, but we had a lot of meat protein in our diet. That's where I feel best. Other people who don't have that accessibility in their genes may not do that well. All right. So that's that question answered. You spot. Oh, thank you. Spot on. Everything in our food has changed. Yeah. The metformin, is that what you've been on for years for your diabetes? Right. So our food, you guys, if anyone tells you there's one specific diet that you can do that's going to help you, I disagree. Um, More fruits and veggies on the plate, that works for some people. not for everybody. And we're going to talk about why more fruits and veggies is causing some problems for some. I just want to make sure you guys, if I don't get to your questions, know that there's a lot coming in on both platforms and I need to, or on all platforms, and I'm trying to get to them. So just re-ask. Symptoms with PCOS. We're going to go over that in a little bit, but I want to really talk about the gut today, PCOS and fibromyalgia. So you guys, all of these videos where I talk about all of this is YouTube has even the live videos housed there. They have every video that I create on TikTok is over there, including these live ones are housed there. TikTok does not replay the live videos, right? So you'll find them over on YouTube, more stable if you want to just be able to pick through them and get some answers that way. Okay, so all right, let's get back to our gut. So we talked about visceral fat. We talked about it choking you off. Now, somebody asked about constipation. One of the other things that's happening with insulin resistance, and we're going to start getting into some cues, and I'll round back to all this, but I really want to address this. So yesterday I was asked about IBS. I was asked about acid reflux. We went over one of the reasons why you have acid reflux. Here's another reason. So reason number one was visceral fat. Reason number two is nerve pathway damage. This is happening throughout your body. We've talked about how it happens in your brain and neuropathy. If you're having that numbness and tingling in your hands and fingers, understand that that same thing is happening inside your gut. So now your gut isn't getting the cues, those nerve messages that say, hey, gut, contract. Your intestines are contracting and expanding all day long to move the food through the gut. So when we have these nerve misfirings, the gut is not contracting as forcefully or as often as it should. Now you're getting some constipation, or your body's trying to push stuff out. Maybe you're holding on to stuff and you get really gassy and bloated. And then if you've had damage to your liver and you're not getting that bile out to help break down the food, you're getting explosive diarrhea because the same thing is happening with metformin. You're just not digesting it. Now, all of that, when that food is passing through too quickly because you're not getting bile from the liver, which is impacted by fat, and the nerve endings are not happening properly, the nerve cues, your stomach's not contracting, digesting your food as quickly, you're getting acid reflux, your gallbladder isn't contracting and pushing that bile out to digest your food, you're either going to have constipation or you're going to have really bad diarrhea. But first, you're going to get some gas and bloating, right? You're going to start feeling really uncomfortable. You may even get some gastritis where it's like sharp pains under your rib cage around where your liver and your gut are or your stomach are. And that's all linked to insulin resistance and the production of visceral fat and the fact that it's causing nerve damage within your gut system. So that's a really, really quick explanation of it. But there's something else that's going on. A third thing that's happening with insulin resistance and your gut. Insulin resistance, now we're going to go back to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is just resistance to a hormone called insulin. What insulin is a transport system for sugar. So when we eat food, it converts into one of the fuel sources, but the main fuel source our food converts into is called glucose. Even a portion of your proteins converts into glucose in your system for energy. Some of it's going to build blocks of muscle, not just skeletal muscle, but to repair heart, liver, kidneys, all of those are muscle tissues. Even your gut needs that protein. Part of the protein is being converted into glucose. Well, with foods that we just talked about a little bit ago that are so bioengineered and changed from what they're supposed to be, being stripped of enzymes, being stripped of fibers, being stripped of other nutrients that we need, we're getting too much sugar into our system too often, too rapidly, and it's causing sugar overload inside the gut. When that happens, the negative gut microbiome that's causing inflammation, and those negative gut microbiome can be helpful in some instances. We need some there. But when we lose the balance between our probiotics and that negative gut microbiome, we have dysbiosis, and we start to have inflammation go on. We start to feel sick. We start to have autoimmune diseases, and it's all starting in the gut because we fed it too much sugar, and that negative gut microbiome is flourishing. So the negative gut microbiome is feeding off of sugar, and the probiotics, the good gut microbiome, feeds off of fiber. So if we've stripped the fiber out and increased the amount of sugar in the foods that we eat, even our organic and natural foods, this is happening. Now we're just set up. Our food system has set us up to be creating this negative gut microbiome, and in that then we're having more inflammation, we're having more problems, and we're having more insulin resistance, and we're having more cues that are going haywire with our nerves, and we're getting sick. And now we're going into the doctor, starting from our gut, we're going into the doctor with this whole list of things that are going wrong, and the doctor's like, you're crazy. I think you're making things up. There's no way you could have all of this going on, and I don't know how to address it, so I'm going to blame you. And what we're going to do is we're going to go turn around and blame the food industry, because I mean, we have to take some responsibility. We want foods that are bigger, better, sweeter, juicier, that taste better. Who wants to pick up a peach that's I don't have it here. A peach that's the size of my AirPods case, and have a bite of that's super crunchy and hard to chew and bitter and only a little bit sweet, but really dense in nutrients and fiber? Or do you want to go to the store and pick up a peach that's the size of my fist, that's sweet and juicy and all that's just running down your face when you eat it, and it's not satiating, but it gives cues to your body that, hey, this tastes good. I feel good in the moment. I want more of that. That's what's happening to us. But the food industry says, okay, hey, you want food that's bigger, better, juicier, sweeter. We're going to comply. We're going to give you that food. Because guess what happens when we take fiber out of the food, when we make it more full of sugar? I feel like I'm preaching. When we make it more full of sugar in these things, then you as a consumer are going to be more hungry more often, because sugar is not satiating at all. It passes through your system really quickly. So now you're eating that peach instead of eating one small one and feeling like, oh, I'm full. You're eating one big one, and then you're like, oh, I'm hungry again. That didn't hang out very long. So now we're constantly eating, and guess what? There's so many, influencers on here who are trying to do a good job, and they're telling you eat every 2 hours. And yet every metabolic scientist, every metabolic specialist would tell you that's exactly the wrong thing to do. Eating every 2 hours is killing your metabolism. It may look great in the short run. It may make some changes in the short run. You may have some weight loss, but you're setting yourself up for a slower metabolism that's going to cause you weight problems later on in life. It's going to cause some of this insulin resistance to go on, and you're going to get sicker with all of these other things. Stop eating every 2 hours. Stop it. I'm not even going to invite you to understand. I'm just going to say, stop it. Stop eating all the time. It's killing your metabolism. And we're going to go over why that is. And then you'll understand why the solution works. Okay. But all of it links into the gut. So are we clear? It's causing too much visceral fat. It's causing nerve damage, and it's feeding negative gut microbiome. Now you end up with acid reflux. Now you end up with liver problems, gallbladder problems, kidney problems. You end up with infections. You end up with autoimmune disorders, and you're just sick all the time. And it all starts with the amount of sugar we're getting in our system and how quickly we're getting it. And yes, that's coming even from those fruits and veggies everybody keeps talking about, right? So let's talk about the 3 macronutrients in your system, your dietary system, and what's happening with them. And then we're going to get to the point here in a minute. I do like berberine. I don't use it. I'm doing more study on berberine, but bariatric patients eat smaller meals, so they may have to eat more frequently. So bariatric patients, yeah, isn't it unfortunate that if you knew this was the problem in the first place, you might not have either had any kind of bariatric surgery or bariatric problem in the first place? And why are doctors having you do something to your gut that's going to reduce the size of your gut, but not fix the problem of the nutrients you're getting in? So you're going to have to be more cognizant of the foods you eat. And as a bariatric patient, you're going to have to make sure that your foods are more nutrient packed. And you probably are going to have to go very low carb so that you can get the nutrients you can get in without spiking your insulin constantly, causing more of the problem you already had and got you there in the first place. So eating every 2 hours is still not the way to go. Sugar stays in your gut and it's feeding that negative microbiome that's causing inflammation. One other little cue here is 70% of your immune cells are housed in your gut. So if your gut is inflamed and sick and causing all of this negative microbiome and inflammation, it's killing off those immune cells that are housed in your gut. Now, not only do you have all the stuff we just talked about, you're getting colds more often, you're getting flus more often. Every time something comes around, you feel a little hot, you feel a little cold, you feel like you're going to come down with something because your immune system is down. Okay? Your immune system is down because your gut microbiome is off. So let's talk about intermittent fasting. Yes, I do intermittent fasting. I love intermittent fasting. Veggies, I agree with veggies. Okay. Some people do, some people don't. You guys, it does not matter what I say. It doesn't matter what science is out there. For A, there's going to be science out there that says that's bullshit. There's B. So what I want you guys to understand is make your own choices, listen to your body, figure out what's working for you. Understand that just because it worked for me to be carnivore, it may not work for you to be that way. But I want you to understand the basics so you can start to make better choices. Okay. Is it true that, yes, vitamin, okay, so vitamin deficiency, is it true vitamin deficiency causes certain issues? I'm not an expert on that, but let's talk about that from two different perspectives, okay? Our food, especially our organic raw food, our raw food, not even just organic, just our raw food. We're not rotating crops. So they will tell you there are some vitamins and there are many minerals that are less present by 50% in our food today than it was 30 years ago. Okay, crop rotation is important and we're not doing it. So now we have like 5 or 6 minerals that are necessary for our body that are just not present in even those raw foods. Okay, there are certain vitamins that are not present in those foods in the rate that they should be. So when we talk about eat veggies, I'm going to agree with that. We need those nutrients. But here's the thing, and I don't want people just taking vitamins and stuff all day long to try and get all the nutrients in. Your body doesn't deal well with that either. But when you're insulin resistant, because fibers have been stripped out, sugars dysregulated, that insulin resistance is causing some malabsorption of the same vitamins in your system. So now we have food that's deficient, we have a gut system that's not uptaking the vitamins and minerals we need, and it's passing through us too quickly, and now we're being malnourished and we're getting sick as part of it. So I agree with all of that. Yeah, and I know so many people that I've talked to that have had those bariatric surgeries that are like, I wish I would have never done it. By the way, I have a guy, Jason, who reached out to me, found me on TikTok a year and a half ago, and his doctor was recommending bariatric surgery for him. He didn't want to do it, but he was about to do it, and we talked. He's lost over 160 pounds, got his insulin resistance under control, reversed his A1C numbers, and lost that 160 pounds and feels better than he ever has with 2 Real Food products we're going to talk about in a minute. We are too addicted to food. So we can talk about that too, because look, again, I want to tell you guys, I'm not some vision of perfection. I still have some weight on me. I still have some health issues that have nothing to do with insulin resistant, or probably, backlog to insulin resistant. Part of it's related to genetics. By the way, if 2 of your parents were insulin resistant or diabetic genetically, you are probably 40% more likely to have an insulin resistance or diabetes problem in the first place. So now you have to be even more careful. So mindsets that's a difficult one. I used to do subconscious reprogramming and mindset work, and I still struggle with it. I do want to, what I was getting to is there are things like ADHD and autism, I have both, that give us some impulse control problems. I know that as much knowledge as I have and as much good as I want to do, there are days where maybe I'm emotionally stressed and I'm not getting the dopamine hits I need from everything else. And that sugar, whatever it is, gives me the dopamine hit, and I will like almost come out of a fog, like, what the heck just happened? So there are those issues that we have, and we just have to do the best we can with where we can. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a second. Mindset is this, you guys, instead of chasing the immediate thing, we need to start paying attention to the long-term benefit. I was chasing the immediate, and you guys, I don't talk about this as much as I used to, but just not that many years ago, in my 50s, I was a four-time world champion powerlifter, had four gold medals. I'd never lost a world championship. I worked out 6 days a week, through 3 hours a day minimum. I was always training, always doing stuff. I was eating keto. I was doing all the things, and I was still getting sick. Okay, so there is an easier way. So I am a big proponent of eating meat. Somebody else loves veggies. We talked about that earlier. Eat what's right for your genes. Figure that out for what your body thrives on. So it's not all genetic. So you have more propensity to be diabetic or insulin resistant if two of your parents were. That instance goes down if one was. But they did a study on some twins to see, is it all about genetics? So two twins, obviously there's two of them, different families, different households, different lifestyles. One was very thin, one became insulin resistant and got really heavy. So how does that happen? They have the same genetics, right? One is thin, one is now heavy. What was the disconnect? The environment they were in was the disconnect. The foods they ate was the disconnect. How they ingested the food and what food came in and how their bodies dealt with it was the disconnect. So if you have the genetics to be more insulin resistant, then what you're going to have to do is just pay attention to the food you're eating. Eating every 2 hours is not going to be healthy for you. Eating foods that convert into carbohydrates too quickly are not going to be healthy for you. And I'm sorry, vegetarians, we're going to talk about macros right now. So there's three what we call macronutrients in your food: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Let's talk about them. Carbohydrates are not just bread and pasta and rice. They're fruits and vegetables too. Okay. So if it's not a protein and it's not a fiber or a fat, it is a carbohydrate, is what I usually say. Now, some carbohydrates have a small amount of protein in them. Here's the thing. Yes, I will get to it, but I need everybody to understand why, because otherwise I could tell you to put a certain brand of oil in your car, but if you didn't understand why, you'd be like, oh, that's a bunch of crap. So we're just going to go over it. We're going to talk about it in a second. Okay. Give me a second because I'm getting there. So carbohydrates are the least satiating of all the foods. They convert into glucose the quickest. Okay. They have some fiber in it, but unfortunately, as we've been talking about, that fiber has been stripped. And so now it's turning into glucose much quicker, and it's hitting our bloodstream much faster, and it's causing all this IBS and all these other things more than ever. So, and when you listen to some doctors and some metabolic scientists, and Ben Bickman talks about this, animals, we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a little controversial, but some of those fruits, vegetables, grasses were not really meant for us to eat. We've modified them so that we could eat them. Animals have a different gut system than we have. Cows have what, like 7 stomachs, so they can digest and break down the grass. Now, the magic of eating meat is that, I'm sorry, but that the cow has now ate the grass with all the nutrients and digested it, and it ends up in their muscle structure. And then we eat the cow and we get the benefits of what we can't break down and digest. Sorry. All right. So vegetables are carbohydrates. They're the least satiating. They're going to go through you. They may give you some benefit. If they don't have enough fiber, they're going to stick with you less long, and you're going to be hungry much quicker, more often. And even at that, with a lot of fiber in them, they can cause some gas and bloating too. Fats don't spike your insulin. So the turning into glucose spikes your insulin. Fats don't really spike your insulin. And out of the three, they are about middle in the satiety place, right? But the fats if you're looking at saturated fats like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, and the animal fats, they're actually helping your liver process fats. The fat that's causing cholesterol problems is produced in your liver, and that is produced because of too much sugar. It's a very different fat than these saturated fats that I'm talking about. But they keep you satiated much more than carbohydrates without the insulin spike. And how many of you guys are doing low fat diets? So autoimmune disease is linked to inflammation in your gut. Inflammation, more and more doctors who are autoimmune specialists are coming out saying that autoimmune disease is all linked to inflammation, and most of that inflammation starts in the gut. So proteins, right? Carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Proteins only spike your insulin about half as much as carbohydrates. Some of this goes to building blocks, some of it turns into carbohydrates, but the magic with proteins, and I'm talking animal proteins, they are the most satiating of all of the food types. Now you're less likely to overeat. Now you're less likely to have the food pass through you and all of that. Allergy causes psoriasis. So gluten allergy causing psoriasis. Yes, there's some efficacy to gluten allergy. Would you be interested to know that a lot of those allergic reactions are starting in an imbalanced gut as well? Get your gut microbiome balanced, and some of those allergies will start to relieve themselves, and they have for many people. The fibromyalgia link has to do with the nerve firing pathways going off in your body, and now you're just having random pains that the doctors can't explain, and they don't know how to diagnose it, so they call it fibromyalgia. Some fibromyalgia is caused by a spinal injury or dysfunction in the spine, but most of it is caused by some nerve pathway disorder, which is caused by insulin resistance. Okay. That's a lot of questions, you guys. I love it. You're like keeping me going today. I feel like Machine Gun Kelly today, but here we are, and I like it. I like it so much. Okay, so now we understand that. Okay, proteins are the most satiating. Spike your glucose less. Fats are the next most satiating. Don't spike your glucose really at all. And then carbohydrates are the least satiating, and they spike your glucose. So here's the answer. There's 6 simple things you can do to help with your insulin resistance. Then I'm going to go over the system that I used and why. The 6 simple things, and I'll go through them as quickly as I can. Fiber first, before you eat, every time you eat. Okay? And I'm going to explain that in a second. Then you're going to prioritize proteins. Okay? Those proteins are going to keep you fuller longer. They're going to deliver nutrients. They're going to build your muscle, which are your muscle structure is one of the biggest volume users of insulin and sugar in your body. So you got to keep the muscle up. Then you're going to fill with fats. Okay. You have to have fats with protein. And I've gone over that in other ones and in other videos, and I can go over it later, but I want to get through this. So fiber first, prioritize protein, fill with fats, limit your carbs. Okay. Limit your carbs, especially those like breads, grains, pastas, all of that stuff. If we're talking dark green veggies and some fruits that are lower in the glycemic scale, meaning they have more fiber on them, great. I'm not saying you can't have them. I'm saying make sure you're getting in these other 3 things first. Then 5, you're going to do some intermittent fasting. I saw your comment about intermittent fasting. So we're going to talk about that. And I'll go over intermittent fasting after I get through this phase and why it's so great and why I do it every day. And I do different forms of intermittent fasting now as I'm healing my body. I know bread and pasta are so I like bread, but the more I've done this, the less I need bread. However, there's days where I'm just like, I just want a croissant, right? I get it. Yes, you can be doing it if you're 5 years old. We have a year and a half old doing it. My granddaughter, who's 6, drinks the tea. She doesn't do the other because she's not having issues. I have a 13 and 14-year-old grandchild who are doing it. I have a child who was uh, 10 or 11 when he started it, and he has type 1 diabetes. Keto bread is better than the gluten bread for many people, lower in the carbohydrates. Not what I would like you to do, what I would invite, if you can afford it. I haven't done it yet myself. So here I am recommending something I haven't done. I want to, but get a glucose monitor. I know they're expensive, and that's one of the reasons I haven't done it. But if you can do a continuous glucose monitor for a while, and this goes back to what do you eat, start doing that, even if you do it for just a couple of months, and see what foods are spiking your glucose the most, what foods are causing you the problems. Then you'll have an idea of what foods you should be eating, not what foods someone else is telling you to eat. The last one you didn't miss, I just got off track. The last one is to move your body. So intermittent fasting, so fiber, protein, fats, limit carbs, do some intermittent fasting and move your body. We sit too much. We're not getting our muscles moving. And if our muscles are the biggest volume user of glucose, making us more insulin sensitive, we've got to move them. And if we don't move them, we lose them. Okay. So I like apple cider vinegar too. I like apple cider vinegar. I like berberine. I like the idea of berberine. I don't take berberine. I do apple cider vinegar from time to time. I just forget to do it, and I focus on this. So the system I do is this. The system I do is this. The tea you see me drinking this morning is a tea that just comes in a packet like this. I just mix it in hot water, and I have it in the morning, or like when I'm done with this live, as I'm going through my day, I'll be sipping on another full tea throughout the day. Why this tea? I'm doing a series. If you go to my tab called The Tea, you'll get all of these 13 science-backed benefits of the tea. I worked on a video last night and I didn't like it, so I didn't post it. I'll be redoing it today. But one of them is mental clarity and energy. But the tea is a South American tea that the Argentinians use. It's their national drink. Their soccer team uses this tea because it's so dense in every life-supporting nutrient that we need. It gives us chlorogenic acids. It gives us things called theobromine and mate saponins. So it has a number of actions. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday who was concerned about their heart health with the tea. What I want to tell you is I was concerned about that too. Yes, yerba mate tea. And I'm going to talk to you about why this is different from a standard bagged yerba mate tea. But the chlorogenic acids in this, and there's a number of components. So there's antioxidant components, there's anti-cancer components, there's anti-inflammatory components in it. And so it's doing all this work throughout your body, right? It's also helping you in a fasted state, which I'm in now, kick out more ketones, the little messengers that are telling you to use fat for fuel. That's part of where the great energy is coming from. This is not from the excess caffeine, because there's only about 80 milligrams of caffeine in it. It's from the fact that I'm burning fat for fuel. So chlorogenic acids, 375 times more chlorogenic acids in this tea than a bagged yerba mate tea. And we're going to talk about caffeine here in a second too. Chlorogenic acids, what are they? They're a component that can cross the blood-brain barrier and get nutrients and function back to the brain. The brain relies on glucose for energy. So if you're having brain fog, anxiety, depression, you're probably not getting energy to the brain. The tea is delivering 375 times that than a normal tea. I'm not bagging, I'm not steeping 375 bags of tea. Plus, then the one other benefit, and we're going to go over where to get it in a second. By the way, if you want it, just go to my profile, tap on that link up there, right under the red light symbols, there will be a link, and that's where you're going to order it. The tea then is also hyper purified. So carcinogens, PAHs from fire roasting, which is what has to happen to this tea to get those components out. It's removed through a process called hyperpure when we take it to a lab in Switzerland, plus any incidental environmental toxins and whatnot that you're getting with a normal tea you're not getting with this tea. You're just getting a power punch of all the best benefits of it. So, caffeine. The three adaptogens, chlorogenic acids, theobromine, and mate saponins, moderate the effect of the caffeine. So now instead of getting what I call a like thrown against the wall and drop to the floor later, you're getting this nice, really clear energy that doesn't drop you to the floor later. You just start to come down from it nice and easy. But it's helping my blood pressure was at 180 over 150 at some point during every day 2.5 years ago. The best we could get it to in the doctor's office was 150 over 110. Can I say that I laid awake at night crying because I thought I was going to die in my sleep? Yes. Yeah, I know how bad that blood pressure was, but that was reality for me. My blood pressure today off of all medications is 110 over 70, and that's all I've done is this system and added that tea. Absolutely helped me. So that's only the first component. I do that every morning and I drink the tea throughout the day because it's the best thing I can put in my body if I'm drinking anything but water. Yeah, I want to read that comment. Let me get back to it. I'm sorry if I missed some comments. I'm going to get to the fiber. Everybody's asking about that. But first, Pee Wee, following what I'm saying, she's 50 years old. She's lost 40 pounds and have so much energy. You guys, the energy you get is crazy. 2.5 years ago, I couldn't play with my grandkids. I was tired. I was in pain. It was just a miserable state of being. Now I was having sword fights with my grandson last night. I was playing Wii bowling with him. I do all kinds of stuff with him. I spend more time with my family. It's not just about my health. My family's getting more of me than ever before because I have the energy and I have the reduction in pain and how I get my fiber in. Scientific research shows that most of us are only getting in 10 to 15 at the most grams of fiber a day. And yet we need 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day to be healthy. So yeah, when you're talking fruits and veggies, I agree. Those we need fiber from those, right? But we've talked about how they've been manufactured out. Unfortunately, they've been manufactured out. So in order to get that 30 to 40 grams of fiber, this little bowl of broccoli that you're eating or a big bowl of broccoli that you're eating is not giving you that. You're going to have to eat a bushel of broccoli to get that amount of fiber. I can't do that. I don't have the stores. I don't want to be running to the grocery store every few days to buy bushels of broccoli. I don't want to do it. I can't afford it. I used to love broccoli. Not my favorite vegetable anymore. I do like asparagus and Brussels sprouts and stuff like that. I get those in and green beans. But I do this. This has 5 grams of fiber, but more important than the fiber in it, it is the type and combination of fibers. So there's 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers in this. And what they do is help reduce a blood glucose spike by 20%. So when I take this before I eat, which berberine I get does this too, but berberine does not have the fiber component in this that's helping with your gut. This is feeding my gut microbiome as well as lowering that blood glucose spike by 20%. This particular fiber has that study done on it. The Metamucil benefiber haven't been shown to do that. And they're one type of fiber. So insoluble, soluble fibers. Insoluble does not soak up water and it stays more rough and strandy. It creates like a matrix, a mesh matrix in your gut. It's a really good broom for your gut, right? The soluble fibers take up water and they create a gelatin matrix. Now that matrix starts to expand in your gut. So now you're feeling full before you eat. And I'm smiling because I've had so many people say, well, I just feel so full after I drink the fiber. Yeah, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing to feel full like we should from fiber instead of from junk that's making us sick? Isn't it amazing to feel full and not like you have to overeat to get stuff in? And isn't it amazing that that same thing that's helping you feel full, that's holding on to the food, is also regulating your blood sugar spikes and regulating the fat in your system? It's not taking it away. It's not doing what those drugs are doing that are keeping them from digesting and passing out, causing IBS and those issues, or breaking them down and letting them go through the kidneys too quickly and causing urinary tract infections. This is holding onto that sugar and time releasing it. So your body's getting energy as it needs to. And now you're having health. You're getting glucose to the system that your system needs, but you're getting it in a time and rate that your body can actually use it. When you're insulin resistant, that glucose isn't getting used and you're tired and you're fatigued all the time. Okay. So that's the fiber. And besides that, it has vitamins and minerals in it that are scientifically put in there because they help with metabolism. And it also has phytosterols that are helping with heart rate. So both products are helping with healthy heart rate, which is one of the number one clues that you're insulin resistant and having problems. So my day goes like this: a tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I have my first meal. During my 8-hour eating window, I fast for 16 hours. And then I have another one for my second meal. Now, if I have a third meal, if I have a snack, if I'm out for, appetizers with friends, I have another one. And guess what? If you have a drink on the weekends and you're worried about, and you're not doing something like vodka, that's keto friendly, right? But you're having some other drink and your beer maybe, and you're worried about your glucose because those are really bad on your liver and your glucose. If you have one of these beforehand, it's going to help protect you from some of that sugar. You're not going to have as bad a hangover the next day. The hangover is that high sugar spike and drop. And now your body's all glucose dysregulated when you're having those drinks. So, yeah, that's what I do. I do it every single day, and I will do it every day that I'm able to. It's given me my health back and my life back, and I will never go without it. Go to my profile. I'll drop the link in over on YouTube, Facebook, but go to my profile. Right underneath my profile picture, you'll see the 2 red lights. Right under that's a link. I'll try and drop it in here for you guys if TikTok will let it show up. And that's where you're going to get it. And I can show you that in a second. But let's talk about intermittent fasting and why it's so important to your metabolic health and why it's one of the 6 clues that I use. Okay. Um, my head feels like it's going to explode some days. Today, I feel really good. I did all my meditations, but yeah, sometimes I get my words mixed up because what you guys don't see is inside my head, there's like all of this information fighting to come out. And so my words get mixed up sometimes. So I'm not going to tell you how many kilograms you can lose within 2 months because I don't know what your health situation is. So this is not a weight loss program. Rarely do you guys hear me talk about weight on this channel because it's not a weight loss program. This is a get your health back program. And if you understand that your excess weight is a downline symptom of being insulin resistant, and that if you focus on getting more insulin sensitive and you focus on all this other stuff going on, your weight's going to start to normalize. Now, here's another thing with weight, and I know I missed some questions. I'm going to try and get back to that. But here's the thing. When you're insulin resistant, your muscles are resistant to insulin as well. So you're losing muscle, you're gaining fat. I won't have time this morning to go over that. I'll be going over that tomorrow morning, so join me back then. But when you're going on a diet with the normal calorie restriction things or with these medications that they're doing, you're losing even more muscle to lose the fat. What I want to say is this. I was much, much heavier when I started. I couldn't lose more than 5 pounds. I was struggling with all these health issues. I started the system for my diabetes and to hopefully lose some weight. 6 weeks in, I hadn't lost a pound. But I was losing inches because fat was coming off. And because I was very active, I was still maintaining muscle. So I wasn't losing all the muscle along with the fat because I was becoming more insulin sensitive and staying active, moving my body. My weight didn't change a lot during the first 6 weeks. After week 6, I started losing weight. By month 2, I had lost 15 pounds. By month 5, I had lost over 50 pounds. I have people who haven't lost weight for 3 months because their body, man, I haven't talked about this for a long time either. Your body is innately intelligent. It's going to deal with what it needs to deal with first. Maybe your body has something else to heal and it's not super concerned about the weight yet. And so it's going to take care of that. I want you to focus on what your health looks like and stop all this focusing on the scale. If you want to know if you're losing fat. Pay attention to what your inches look like. Pay attention to what you look like when you're naked. Actually go look at yourself in the mirror when you're naked. See what your body looks like. Take the measurements. Get off the freaking scale. And not everybody's meant to be rail thin. I carry a lot of muscle mass and a lot of bone density, and my body's going to look different than the next person who has less bone volume and density and muscle volume than I have, and so they're going to look different. Okay? I can't tell you how much weight you're going to lose on this in 2 months. If you follow the simple steps that I tell you, and you do the system, your insulin resistance is going to go down. Insulin resistance is what's cueing your body to store fat. That excess fat is causing more insulin resistance. It's a negative cycle. Get the insulin under control. The sugar control is going to go. The fat's going to be able to be accessed through some intermittent fasting, and then you're going to start to feel better. But it's not just dependent on this system, it's dependent on you and what you're going to do with the system, and how seriously you're going to take your health, and how you're going to pay attention. Plus, you get me as a coach. So you're having problems, call me up. We talk it through. We see if we can break down what's going on with your diet and what may need to be changed. So the red lights are in my Okay, let's take a look at my profile, because some of you guys are saying there's no red lights there. So let's go look, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you tap on my picture up above, and you get the white box below, or from any video that you watch of mine, just tap on my picture to the side. It's going to take you to my profile on TikTok. And what that's going to look like is something like this. Okay, so you'll see my picture up there. You're going to see these red lights. See these red lights? Right below it is a link. Yours won't be red, but right below it is a link. Tap on that link. That's going to take you to this page, which is my order page. This very first one that orders the system I used is right here. If you're just interested in the tea, which I can't imagine why you would be, but if you're just interested in the tea, you can get it at a discount by getting the 2-pack here. My free 6 Simple Steps ebook that I just talked about, those 6 simple steps, you can get the free ebook and read through that. So just a short ebook that talks about what I just said, and that's free to you. That's there. If you want to know more about the products, some success stories, all of that, go to my website. It explains all of it there, including nutritional panels, everything. But that's where you're going to order it. I hope you can find it now. There's also on TikTok my first video. When you open up my first video, shows you exactly how to get there. And so there's that. Okay, guys, it's that time of day when I got to shift gears and go start answering texts and calls that I've had throughout the night. By the way, before I go, there's a couple of things. So it does come with a 90-day money-back guarantee. One thing I want to say is, if you can't commit to yourself for 90 days, do us both a favor and don't even start. Okay? That's just plain and simple. If you want to make change and you can say, okay, I'm going to stick this out for 90 days. I'm going to allow my body with a natural food-based system to heal and make changes, then I want to work with you and I want to help you get there. But if you're not at the point where you can make that decision for yourself, it may not be the system for you. Okay? But there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. And because of the science behind it, that guarantee covers this. So if you do the system for 90 days, the guarantees are your blood glucose, your A1C, your lipids will go down in 90 days. Do the system like it's meant to be done. Use me as a coach to help you along, and that's going to happen for you. Okay? The other guarantee is a low price guarantee. The best price guarantee. You're going to get it the same price I get it. It's going to be cheaper than you're going to find it on Amazon, Walmart, eBay. None of those places have any authorized distributors. There's pirated products, whatever on there. And every person that I've talked to that bought it off of Amazon, eBay, Walmart paid about $100 more than they needed to. It's not that difficult, and it's about $5 a day. So let's just quelch that. About the cost that you're spending on a Starbucks a day, less than is what you're going to get your health back. Okay, $5 a day. Now, then the third guarantee is quality guarantee. We test this stuff before it ever goes into production. We test it midway through production. Before it's packaged and sent out to you, we test it again. If it doesn't pass any of those, it doesn't ever come out to you. So do all of that. Make sure you're getting the guarantees. Make sure you're doing all the stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about fiber. We talked a little bit about the gut and the importance of your gut microbiome and how insulin resistance is throwing that off and causing all of these other issues in your system. Tomorrow, I really want to go over because it's Friday. So I'm gonna give myself a break day. But it's important information because so many of you guys are asking this stuff and I rarely get to it. We're going to talk about sugar and why it's so destructive. We're going to talk about fiber and why we need it. We're going to talk about the food environment that we're in. By the way, 93% of us are metabolically failing. 93% of us. So before I go, think about this. If you had children in a school district and 93% of those kids were failing, and your child was one of them, would you go to your child and say, you're a bad kid, you're not doing something right, or you'd be passing this class? Would you be constantly on your child knowing that 93% of the other children are failing? No. I think you would go to the school and say, hey, what's going on here? Why are all these kids failing? And I invite you to do that with your health. If 93% of us are failing metabolically, there's something else. 93% of us are not bad kids. Okay. So, yes, I'm going to show you, I'm going to answer these two questions. 8 a.m. Central Time every day. It's 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, which means it's like 5:30 PST and 6:30 MST, Monday through Friday. You guys, I'm like, look, I want to help everybody, but I love having time with my family. And I'm becoming a big proponent of putting all this stuff away. Because of issues in my family, it's been more important to me to make sure that I value the time I have with them. So I only go live Monday through Friday. Okay. I'm a machine, but not that much of a machine. Now, the product, if you want to get the product, yes, you're going to go to the same place where I just showed you. Here's the interesting thing. I can't see your name. Gal. So if you go to that same link over on my page, and I'll drop it in here before I pop off. Okay, so if you go to the same one, see right here, it says contact me on WhatsApp. I had somebody who was a scammer call me. You guys, I rarely answer a phone call from people that I don't know. Text me on WhatsApp. If you're interested in how you can make money, and that's a great question, text me there and I'll go over that with you. So before I go, I know keep saying before I go, you guys, you know what? It's a dragon year. And this is my 60th year, which means this is my wood dragon year. This is my year. And so I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that gift. Now, I want to talk about the business side just a little bit. If you love helping people and you want to have time with your family and friends, is it easy? No, it's not easy. Did I have to learn a lot to do this? Yes. Did I know everything that I talk about 2 years ago? No. When I started out, I knew very little except for that I was feeling better. But I also was struggling financially. When I look at the space I live in now and the car I drive now and the time I have with my family and the things I'm able to afford to do, I'm blown away. Because what I don't talk about enough is that 2.5 years ago, I had gone from an okay living situation to I couldn't work anymore because of all of those issues that were posted. And so I was literally living in a hallway. My daughter has an old like 1920s house, and upstairs there's 2 bedrooms. The kids were in each one of those rooms and there was a hallway between those. I was on a twin mattress with my TV like 2 feet away from me and a small dresser crammed into the corner. That's where I lived. My kitchen was this kitchen sink was in the bathroom next to the toilet. There was a little fridge that we had plugged in down the hallway upstairs, and that's how I was living, taking care of my grandkids. And because I couldn't afford to live, and I was so my health was so bad. Now I live by myself. I can afford probably some of the nicest digs I've lived in my life with the first brand new car I've ever bought. And I do it by helping you guys every day and just by educating people to understand what's going on and helping them get their health back. If you're interested in getting a life like that, if you're interested in how you can do that, and there are people who do much better than me because I spend way more time educating than a lot of people do, but that's what fills my soul. And I'm happy with where I'm at. If you want to do that, let me know. Contact me on WhatsApp. I am actually really diving back into building my team and helping other people find this freedom as well, and not just the health freedom, but getting to like it would be selfish of me to not share this. When I look at other people that I know who are struggling, and like I have friends that I went to school with to become a medical assistant, and they're still working and still making $12 to $15 an hour and struggling with a two-income family, and they have all the knowledge I have. What how can I not say something? You guys, all right. I'll be back in the morning. So I appreciate you all. I appreciate the questions. Please reach out to me on WhatsApp. Understand, just like here, I'm not pushy. I spent all this time talking about everything going on and very little time talking about the product, which I should probably do more. But I'm not pushy. You text me, I'm not going to hound you. I'm not going to push you. Either way, product or business, let me know. I'm here to help you. And I will see you in the morning, but I got to go help some people. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you again every day. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Some days it's hard to get up and get on here, but I just know that there's one person who needs this that's going to hear it, and that's why I do it. So, all right, bye guys.